Hey, fellow babies, welcome to Pachter Factor Live on SIFTD.net. To our Patreon patrons and our YouTube subscribers, thank you. It is because of you guys that we were able to keep bringing this to you. You're keeping Shane in new equipment because, occasionally it gets stolen. His old office got broken into and he lost all his equipment, and I think he's finally paid off the new equipment. But we're going to have to replace that stuff in the next year or so, so keep those subscriptions going. If you are a subscriber or not, please try to remember to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. That's a three-step process. The instructions on how to do that are below in the show description. Check that out, please, if you haven't done it in a month or so, because it has to be renewed every month. So please renew it. That's free. You've already paid for Amazon Prime. Amazon pays Shane. So if you link that, it costs you absolutely nothing. You are taking advantage, full advantage of your Amazon Prime membership by linking it to your Twitch Prime account. So please do that. And if you don't have a Twitch Prime account, sign up for one because it's, again, free. So today's topic is pretty recent news. EA has decided to close its Cliffhanger studio. I'm pretty sure that one's in Seattle, but it's the studio that was working on the Black Panther game. And if you will remember, EA is primarily a sports license company. You know, they obviously do pro soccer, so they have EA Sports Football Club. They do Madden football. They do college football. They've done Star Wars with Disney in the past, and they're continuing to do Star Wars games. And they have signed a deal to do 3 Marvel games. We knew about Iron Man and we knew about Black Panther. It appears the Iron Man game is still going to be produced, but the Black Panther game was the one that Cliffhanger was working on. And not only did they cancel the game, but they kind of fired everybody at the studio. They shut the studio down. Now, they're obviously going to allow some of the talented people to bid for other jobs within EA. But, the rest of the EA portfolio, largely licensed. I mean, they have Formula One, which came out, I think, today. College football, I said. They do. I think they may be bringing back a NASCAR title. Then the other stuff that they have is their owned IP, and that's Dragon Age and Mass Effect, and they have Dirt and Grid, the stuff that they bought from Codemasters. But this is not a big original IP company. Obviously, we have Apex Legends. The Apex Legends guys, Respawn, had Titanfall, but it sounds like they're not doing that again. And I heard that they had canceled an original IP project at Respawn. Respawn's had layoffs as well. So what's going on at EA? I mean, that's the right question, and we can get into the detail on Marvel. The model to make games out of all owned IP is a tough one. Activision has done a pretty good job of that because they've kind of created Call of Duty, and obviously they have all the Blizzard stuff, and so Blizzard with Hearthstone, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft has done a pretty good job, and obviously all the King stuff, the Candy Crush stuff has been pretty successful for them. Owning your own intellectual property gives you a higher profit on the content that you produce because you don't have to pay a royalty to the IP owner, to the intellectual property owner. So the average royalty, the lowest I've seen is 9% of revenue. The highest I've seen is 20. THQ, famously bankrupt. THQ used to do licensed IP almost exclusively, and they got just crushed with DreamWorks and Pixar licenses, and they were paying 20%. Too much. They couldn't afford it. Now, the trade-off between licensed IP and original IP is that with licensed IP, the publisher doesn't have to market as aggressively because people know what the license means. And so good examples of licensed intellectual property are Pokemon Go, Monopoly Go. Both of those games started as other games. And, Pokemon Go was a game that was actually published called Ingress. And it was exactly the same game, just, spies instead of Pokemon critters. And, it didn't work. But as soon as you added the Pokemon intellectual property, the game was phenomenally successful. Monopoly Go was a different game and it never got published. It got reformatted into Monopoly Go. Obviously, the name brand worked because everybody knows what Monopoly is. And it's not really Monopoly, like, moving characters around the board, but it is all of the characters, board pieces, board addresses and things. And Kim Kardashian's Hollywood started out as a shopping game that didn't do well, and then you add Kim Kardashian. So there's a lot of power to that. And I think that fans immediately identify. So if you play, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it's got Jedi Knights, and the basic plot follows kind of the basic theme in the Star Wars universe. So the Marvel games, obviously, we're going to have kind of a built-in fan base. And Iron Man, everybody understands that, and they know who Tony Stark is, and they know what Iron Man's uniform looks like. Black Panther has a giant built-in fan base, and my understanding was the game looked pretty good. So I don't think the cancellation has anything to do with game quality. I think what happened is that EA had a bad experience with Dragon Age, which was a high-quality owned intellectual property, and the game just didn't sell well. I mean, it sold 3 or 4 million units, but I think they expected to sell 7 or 8, and they don't know why. And I think that EA is getting a lot tighter, a lot tougher, a lot more conservative about producing titles that they don't think are surefire hits. In the case of Black Panther, it's not like Mission Impossible, where we've had 8 films and it's got this long history of being super successful. And I think that the assessment within EA, and this really very much could be DEI induced, the troll farm that started with MAGA, making America great by erasing all black people, all women, all disabled people. That's going on. And so there's a lot of pressure to not be inclusive, to not be diverse in your games. And so, I think that maybe EA decided to terminate Black Panther in part because it has a black main character and a black supporting cast. I think that's less of a reason, but I'm sure it's in the list of reasons why, than the fact that Black Panther isn't as beloved, isn't as widely followed as Iron Man. But I think that all that rationale should have been factored in when they signed up the deal. So they still have a 3 game license with Marvel. Iron Man is one. Can they do Spider-Man? Probably not. I mean, that's a Sony-controlled movie franchise. I think probably what EA is doing is waiting to see what works for Disney, and maybe commission games based on better movie franchises. And I'm not suggesting Black Panther isn't a great movie franchise, but you've got the DEI concern, and it's not a frequent movie franchise. So Avengers would be a better movie franchise because there's been so many of those films. So we'll see what happens, but the truth is, I think EA was chastened by the Dragon Age experience. I think that they are desperate to show their investors that they have earnings growth. Fortunately for them, they do. And fortunately for them, they've managed to restabilize the core global football business. They've enhanced the American football business with the addition of college. They are finally getting their act together on what I consider to be a pretty bad acquisition of Codemasters, but they're kind of working Codemasters in with Criterion, and they have Burnout and Need for Speed, which they own, and Codemasters has Dirt and Grid, which they own, but they're going to add Formula One, and I think they can actually add NASCAR titles. They can do all sorts of stuff. Formula One has a movie, so probably the game will be very successful, but I think EA is going to only focus on giant licenses that they feel are surefire. And like Activision, EA is trying to transform itself into a mega hit company. The other company that owns all its IP that is struggling is Ubisoft. They have something like 15 different big brands, and they can't manage to get more than 3 of them out in a year. And when they miss on one, like Skull and Bones, they get destroyed. They literally guided that they would make 400 million euros in profit this past year, and they broke even. And now the next year they're guiding to 0 in profit. That's crazy. EA profitable because they get their licensed stuff out frequently, all the sports titles. but they have not done as well with owned IP. And I think that because the owned IP isn't working as well, they're going to cut back on more license and try to focus on more owned, because again, it's more profitable. So I think that's what's going on. That's another indication, the whole stay alive till 25 because everything's going to get good turned out not to be true. Even more layoffs in the games industry. They're firing high paid developers in places like Seattle, and they're replacing them with low paid illustrators in places like Shanghai and Romania. So I think that's really what's going on. I don't think the number of heads matters as much as the amount spent. Just in case you guys didn't know this, EA sucks at mobile, like really badly sucks at mobile. And they suck so bad that when they bought Glue and Codemasters, and I forgot the other name, Star or something, the guys who make Golf Clash, they spent as much money on those three acquisitions as Savvy spent buying Scopely. And after Savvy bought Scopely, they added about $3.5 billion of revenue. After EA spent the same amount of money on those other companies, they added about $500 million in revenue. I don't think you will see them cancel the Marvel contract. I think they value the Star Wars license, and I think that the Marvel contract with Disney came out of the success of their Star Wars games. So I think that they will continue to try to figure this out. The big solution, I really do think the perfect solution to all this is put Vince in charge of everything that's not sports. And Vince Zampella, he's taken over the Battlefield franchise, and I'm willing to bet this will be the best Battlefield game in a long time, if not ever. And I think you give him total control of everything that is not sports, and let him make the Iron Man game and the other two Marvel games. And I think if you let him be the guy, he's just got a good sense for what works with consumers. So he's a really good developer. He's a really good guy. I think he's very savvy. And since he's a captive employee and likes working there, give him more responsibility. I think he'll eat it up. Appreciate all of you who are Patreon patrons and YouTube subscribers. You're getting this content real time. So Pachter Factor Live, you're getting it as soon as Shane can edit it and post it. Anybody who has subscribed or anybody who has linked their Amazon Prime account to their Twitch Prime account is also getting this real time. There's an advantage to doing it. It's free and you get the content quicker. So please look up how to do that in the show description below and stick it to Amazon. It's free. Take your Amazon Prime account and link it. If you haven't done it in a month or more, you got to do it again. So please do it. Everybody else, if you don't have an Amazon Prime account, I understand. If you can't afford to, or you don't care to subscribe, you're getting this a week late. Follow me on Blue Sky at Michael Pachter. Good to see you guys. I will see you on the next Pachter Factor Live next week. Thank you.